So you just died in the abyss, then there is a good chance that you made one of the 4 mistakes that I'm gonna show you now. The first mistake is not about what you do in the abyss, but has to do where you do them. Cheetah, where I'm right now, is a good place to sell loot and stuff and get new filaments and other stuff for your next abyssal runs. But this is the location where the most gankers are going to look for juicy targets. And with Cheetah nearby, then you might be think about looking for a system that is very close to Cheetah to run abyssals. For example, when we look at the map here, then there are some 0.6 systems within like 5-6 jumps from Cheetah. Then you think, oh well, Yosameto, that's a good place to do some T5. Let's bring my 5 billion ISK killer there. Then you do some abyssals in that system, and then one day you come out of the abyss and have a bunch of catalysts and coesers, some other ships sitting at the trace, and then when you try to warp to the station, you will get ganked. This means do not run abyssals close to Cheetah. Look for some more remote place to run them. There are a lot of systems in New Eden where you can do abyssals, but you shouldn't do them close to Cheetah. Because there's where a lot of activity is happening, and which also means there are way more gankers. However, if you run like cheap Tech 1 frigates in T0 or T1 abyssals, then there's no problem running close to Cheetah, because no one is really going to gank a Tech 1 frigate, and even if you get ganked in your Tech 1 frigate, it's still an acceptable loss. But once you start getting into ships like the Povatila, it's a good time to look for a better place to run your abysses, which is much further away from Cheetah. And now it can then be annoying to get your stuff to Cheetah to sell and get new filaments back to your abyss running systems. But what is worse than coming out of the abyss and having a bunch of ships waiting for you to blow you up? The next mistake that a lot of people do is that they go into higher tier abyssals too early. Remember this. You just watched a guide of me or someone else trying T6 in a specific ship, and it looks easy to do so. Then you think, I can also just grab that ship with that fit and go straight into T6 and do the same. But then at some point you realize that theory and praxis is completely different. Don't go straight into high tier abyssals. Practice in lower tiers first with the ships that people use in high tiers to get used to all the spawns first. Like for example my T6 Gamma Vagabond that you can see here. This fit works very well in T6 Gammas, but you need to know how to handle all those spawns and so on. So this means if you want to use these ships, start in lower tiers like T3, T4, do some of them, get used to all the spawns first, and then move up to higher tiers. I made a guide on abyssal progression that I link in the description, where I talk a little bit more about when you can progress to higher abyssal tiers. Another common mistake that people make in the abyss is to not know what to prioritize. This is a mistake that costs a lot of people their ship and pod. Depending on the ship that you fly, certain NPC must be killed first. For example, if you use an active tank, then you want to kill newts as fast as possible first. If you use speed tanks, then you want to get rid of webs, target painters and scrams early. If you don't do that, then you might end up losing your ship. And like in this clip you see a room where there are a lot of looting NPCs, and as those ships that I'm using rely on an active tank, they must be killed first, obviously. And the last mistake that I show you is that you spend more than 6 minutes and 30 seconds in the abyss. This can have several reasons why that happens. One is that you focus too much on the side cache that you find in the abyss, and actually traveling to those caches can take a lot of time, and sometimes the loot that you get from those caches isn't really worth it. So that means you shouldn't focus too much on the side cache, especially in frigates, because they drop the same amount of loot as in cruiser. And if you want to grab all of them in cruiser, then the best strategy is to drop an MTU near the gates and drones to them, or use a heavy missile launcher or something, and then while you kill the rats, then the MTU will pull in all those caches. With that you don't waste too much time with them. Another reason why you might end up spending too much time is that you don't have enough DPS. If you have low DPS, then certain rooms like Karen, Deep Watchers or the Overmind can eat up a lot of time. If that's the case, then you might want to check your skills and maybe also add some boosters to your ship to improve your DPS. What also can lead to long completion time is that you do not have good application in rooms where there are a lot of small targets like Ephialtes or drone frigates or Damavix, etc. In that case you want to look on your tracking and maybe add a web or a drop or a crash boost depending on the types of weapons that you use. However, there are some ships where it is unavoidable that a room takes longer than 6.5 minutes. For example, if you run a Stormbringer in T6 electricals, then this room will take longer than those 6.5 minutes. But in any other ships, a room should never take longer than this. Yeah, and now you know the most common mistakes in the abyss. Let me know in the comments how you lost your ship in the abyss if that happened to you. And if you like the content, remember to subscribe. And thank you for watching. See you in the next video.